Just a second. Okay. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, depending wherever you're tuning in from. I believe we're live. So if anyone is watching on YouTube or let me think if it's broadcasting. No, yeah. If you guys are seeing us come through on YouTube, just give me a shout. I guess it's just nobody yet. But we'll give it a couple minutes. So as I said, well, firstly, thank you guys all for being here with me right from the start. I'm really, really pleased and honored to have all of you. And as I was telling you before we started the broadcast here, we will likely have just a couple other members and friends jump in. And yeah, this is the quarantine stream from the HERO Foundry, broadcasting live from the Philippines. We're on Bohol here at the HERO Lab, new office. Originally, the plan was to open a small co-working space here, but instead this has become our quarantine bunker. So, so yeah, I'm trying to, do the best I can to just keep in touch with the members of our community and link up with other friends around the world, especially my nomad friends, which is kind of the topic we want to dive into today, and stay connected and share good information and kind of keep each other encouraged and as positive as we can, and hold each other accountable for getting hopefully some productive things done during this time. So I'll stop blathering on, but I'd like to just give each of you, maybe 2-minute intro for each of you guys. Most folks know Dwight. Zach, you've been a guest on the podcast recently, along with Jim Batcho. So if I may, I'd love to start with you, Lily, because you're brand new to my audience, I think. I hope to have you again and maybe do a one-on-one interview sometime in the not-too-distant future. But why don't you start us off? Can you give people a little introduction and let people know where you are, what you're working on, and what you're about?
Sure. So my name is Lily Bruntz, and I like to joke that I'm like the opposite of a digital nomad because I live in my hometown and I have like 5 cats. I grew up in Chiang Mai, and that's where I'm based now, where I'm all bunkered down for the quarantine. And so for the last couple of years, I've been doing lots of ecosystem building events for the community. And I recently joined Draper Startup House. We run a series of business hostels around the world geared at connecting like founders and entrepreneurs. And so I've been working on launching a space in Chiang Mai because it's such an excellent time to be in the hospitality and events industry. But yeah, so you and I, Cody, we go like a while back to an earlier era of Chiang Mai when this whole digital nomad thing was just starting to become a thing, right? I think we know each other from I think just Small House and connecting with mutual friends there, and yeah, sort of have seen the city transform to what it is today.
Yeah. I think we must have first met at Small House Cafe. Still probably my favorite bar in the world. If you guys ever make it to Chiang Mai, Thailand, yeah, go support Small House. Actually, everyone on this call, I'm pretty sure, has been there. I think I dragged you there a couple times when you visited us as well, Dwight. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating watching what you've been building there in Chiang Mai, Lily. And so, like I say, I mean, yeah, I would love to do just kind of a more in-depth interview with you, and specifically the issues, I guess, that you've been looking at and working on these last few years and what you're building. But I also, I'm really glad and pleased to have you join us, because I believe you could bring a really interesting perspective from that business angle, maybe some of what's going on in the investment world possibly. So hopefully, we'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about that on this call. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Dwight, how about you just let us know what you're up to? Where are you hunkering down right now, and what's going on where you are in your part of the world?
Hey guys. Yeah, I'm at home in Bangkok. We have been in the middle recently of sort of kitchen upgrade from the beginning of the year. So and getting ready to kind of amp up with the nonprofit, our nonprofit Courageous Kitchen, to basically do a bunch of training geared towards refugees, giving them some kitchen skills, like culinary skills, and just work, like some general basic work skills in general. But we only got through like maybe the first half of that, which was getting a bunch of new equipment and everything. So we got equipment in the house, and not really anybody to train except for the girls that live with us. So we do have 3 young women that live with us. So we're just home, like cooking every day, and doing our little things, trying to stay sane and trying to think about some sort of business pivot or something. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about that more later. But yeah, that's what's going on with us. Just kind of hunkered down here, and you're like, lots of things are closed, and you're not supposed to be out after curfew. But besides that, for us that we were kind of working from home anyway, it's not a huge change. It's just no income coming in at the moment, because normally we would be here hosting tours, doing cooking classes and street food tours and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably in a similar boat, right? Feeling like those of us who have something brick and mortar set up, like I said earlier, we opened our doors about a week before. Well, that's not true. About 2 weeks, we had our first 3 customers, but then this hit, and so yeah, time to pivot, I suppose, or at least temporarily, and find different things to invest our time and energy in, right? But I'm glad things are, aside from that, somewhat normal on the ground there for you still. All right, Zach, my man, how about you, brother? What's going on your end? I don't think we've caught up officially for what, about 2 or going on 3 weeks, but how's life there in Indonesia?
Yeah, Bali, I mean, it's still gorgeous. There's obviously less mobility. They closed down the beaches, which was a serious bummer. But I keep thinking, like, I'm an introvert, and I've been working from home for pretty much my entire life. So my life hasn't changed a whole lot. I mean, maybe less visitors, certainly less socializing. But I really feel for like the hardcore extroverts, the people who just really feed on human connection and are really, I feel sorry for them. But for us, more introverted creative types, it's our lives haven't changed quite as much. But anyway, I'm an author, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a podcaster, and I'm on YouTube, and I sell an online course. I do some one-on-one coaching, and yeah, musician. And I lived in Chiang Mai for years, as you know. And I left at the end of December. I gave up my condo and decided to sort of spend some time traveling. And I saw you in the Philippines, and made my way through the Philippines over a couple months, in Bangkok, and then I landed in Bali. I wasn't sure how long I'd stay, and that remains true today. Bali's home for now. I considered going back to Canada for a bit, but I don't know. I weighed all my options, and I have a father who's in his 60s now, and going home to him, and I was just worried about maybe bringing something back, because I've been all over Asia over the past 6 months or so, and so yeah, Bali's home for now. And again, there are certainly worse places to be. The situation here, I mean, the lockdown is a bit ambiguous. Sounds like it's similar to Thailand, where there's different government reports that come out, and the government's encouraging you to stay in, but I don't think there's any official measures in place. I'm looking at the road right now, and I'm seeing a stream of bikes and cars and that. So yeah, it's difficult to say what the official word is, but I'm just staying safe, and I'm mostly staying in, and yeah, just trying to get a lot of work done, basically.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I've seen you cranking out a lot of material, and over chat, you've told me how you've been having a pretty productive time. So I'm proud of you and glad to hear that. And
I've got no excuses. I mean, for the past 2 years, I mean, I've been traveling, and I've been meeting new people, and I've been doing this, and I've been doing that. Like, I've got no excuses left. So every morning I wake up, I look in the mirror, I think, you've got nothing, Zach. Like, either you work, or you're totally useless. You're just kidding yourself. So yeah, I'm trying to get a lot done.
Well, exactly. Everything tends to have a silver lining, and that's one thing I would like to draw attention to during this stream is for those who don't already kind of look at things that way. Yeah, I think if nothing else, this is at least it's taken away all of our distractions, right? And it's kind of a blessing in disguise, I think, giving a lot of people an opportunity to just to put everything else out of their mind and focus on whatever their mission is, their passion, their biggest project, you know. So I hope all you guys out there who are watching and who are going to see this have something like that. But let me see. Let me also bring Adam on. We got another friend here from the Foundry. Adam, can you hear me, buddy?
Yep,
There he is. Good, man. Just going around.
Some bandwidth here.
What's that?
Trying to save on some bandwidth here.
Well, yeah. Real quick, you know, just doing kind of initial introductions. So why don't you, real quick, just give like a 2-minute overview for people watching the live stream on YouTube and in our many Facebook groups later and stuff. But yeah, where are you in the world? What's your situation? What are you working on? Who are you? You know, like
sure.
General intro.
My name is Adam. Software developer by trade. Done a lot of travel, a lot of dabbling different businesses, and both jobs for other companies, for myself, startups, and so forth. Right now, I'm in the U.S. In Charleston at the moment, but kind of always been there. The nomadic, itinerant sort of lifestyle. Yeah, glad to get on. Glad to see everyone.
Yeah, man, it's great to see your face. It's been a little while, so really glad you could make it, man. I guess, and good evening to you, because Charleston.
It is.
It's what, 10 or 11 p.m. for you now?
Yeah, 11:18 right now. So.
But you're a night owl, so I'm glad our timing tends to work out. But yeah, thanks for joining us, buddy. So, you know, I want to give an opportunity to each of you to kind of share on today's stream, you know, and if you guys need to excuse yourselves at some point and have other appointments or things to be working on, that's fine. But so I want to make sure and give each of you a bit of time early on, but I likely will end up going for at least 1.5 hours, 2 hours. That's what tends to happen. But I'd like to. Oh, let's see. We're getting comments from YouTube. I think it's my wife saying hello. Yeah, you know, I guess let me kind of kick off the conversation for all the nomads particularly, but I think there's a lot of people that watch my videos and, you know, follow my content that may not be nomads, but they've been aiming that direction for quite a while, or they want to get there. I think that this situation, on the one hand, highlights that, like, people who already have established that kind of a lifestyle for themselves, at least, you know, with an income that you can earn remotely. So whether they're freelancing or run a small business online or just a remote worker of some sort, I think that obviously that has its benefits in a time like this, right? When in many countries people are being told to go home, and a lot of staff are being laid off, if not at least put on indefinite dismissal. You know, maybe Adam, you could chime in, because I believe you're still working with a remote team. But yeah, my main question to you guys, you know, I think that this situation highlights some benefits, some advantages that people who work online obviously have, and it also kind of brings up some difficulties or some setbacks, you know, some disadvantages, particularly for people who are far away from home. And I guess looking at who we have right now on the stream, you know, it's interesting. Two of you are, as you say, in your hometown, I think, and Dwight and I have made our homes in a foreign country. So I feel, you know, not to whatever make others feel bad, but I do feel very fortunate. I hate the word lucky, but you know what I mean. Like, fortunate this time that I did kind of decide to settle down in my wife's home country, the Philippines, and we've been working for the last 1.5 years just about to really build a home, which was brand new for me, you know, because I was a nomad for 12 or 13 years straight. I was essentially homeless for the last 15 years until finding the place, you know, that I feel I can call home. But I do, you know, I guess Lily's having trouble with her stream. But I think that you know, there's a conversation to be had about the benefits, I guess, of being a little more grounded or having a home base. But there's certainly you know, benefits and drawbacks to both situations. But what do you guys think about that? Like, particularly for those of us that are not in our home country or possibly stuck, you know, in a hotel room somewhere on your travels, like yourself, Zach. What are the biggest challenges or problems that you think this scenario that we're kind of all caught up in highlights right now? What do you guys have?
You mean particularly for nomads or who?
Yeah, for specifically, yeah, for digital nomads and people. I mean, any travelers who may be. I think a lot of people, you know, at least in my immediate circle, people when this all started to really pop off, I was in pretty close contact with a lot of folks that I'm concerned about, and you know, number one reason that I was concerned, people like yourself, Zach, because there's a lot of fear and worry, of course, going around right now, and I think it's largely overblown. But yeah, my main concern for nomads or travelers was let's see if Lily can maybe jump back on and have a better connection. But you know, just being somewhere you're unfamiliar with, and I guess the lack of a local community around you. But I mean, yeah, do you want to share your perspective? I mean, how long have you been there, kind of in quarantine or whatnot in Bali now, Zach?
I guess about a month. And I'll just start to say,
wow.
I mean, I feel really silly talking about any of my quote unquote problems, because I mean, there are a lot of people in this crisis with real problems, you know, people who have family members who are dying or on respirators, or I was just reading an article about this virus and the impact that it's starting to have and the impact that it's going to have on a place like India, a place where I spent a lot of time, where, I mean, the thought of this virus hitting, like, you know, one of the slums of Mumbai or Delhi or anything like that is kind of terrifying. So I feel silly talking about my problems. One thing I'll say, just, you know, in my own little tiny traveler way, is I've just been really trying to put an emphasis on buying local as much as I can, especially if you're anywhere where there's a thriving, or there's usually a thriving tourism industry. As we all know, Bali really thrives on tourism, and the industry here has just been absolutely devastated. So, you know, just little examples, like, you know, if I'm buying wine, I'll buy an Indonesian wine, which is surprisingly good, actually. Who knew? Indonesian wine. The local coffee. I mean, just anything you can do to really support the local economy, I think, is really good. I'm still ordering takeout as much as I can. So even in that tiny little way, it makes me think that, you know, my time here is somewhat valuable. Other than that, I mean, yeah, there's certain issues. You know, I worry about my father, who's in his 60s now. I'm really far away. I'm worried about friends all around the world, and you do lack a sort of community, but I've been getting on a lot more calls like this. I've been reaching out to friends who perhaps I haven't spoken with in many years, which has been really good. It's kind of provided me some inspiration to look a little more closely at some of the connections and relationships which I've neglected in the past, just because I've been on the move so much for the past, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. So that's been good. But in terms of problems, I mean, Jesus, I don't have problems. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world out there with real problems. Certainly far more so than me.
Absolutely, and I mean, you're one of the masters amongst my good friends of people who does a really good job, kind of keeping things in perspective in that way. So it's a great reminder for everyone, you know. Yeah, I mean, everyone is experiencing some problems right now, some setbacks, of course. But yeah, just if you can remind yourself that, like, there are people in a far worse situation, and as you say, Zach, like, yeah, we're certainly not anyone who's got a laptop sitting on you know, a live stream with friends right now, and a warm place to sleep at night and food. Like, we don't have much room to complain. So.
And again, that's one of the amazing benefits of travel, I think, as we talked about in the last call, is it's so easy to keep that perspective. You know, like this morning, I was just watching rice farmers, you know, taking part in the harvest, and just, you know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and it's already just blisteringly hot. And I mean, you know, if you take a look around wherever you travel, you can have 100 of those moments every day that really kind of help you keep the right perspective. And anytime you're inclined toward any kind of self-pity or anything like that, it's very, very easy to kind of snap back into reality, as I'm sure you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Lily, we're having a little trouble connecting with Lily. It's if you can hear me at all, why don't you just try probably restarting your browser at least, and then hop on with us again and see if it makes a difference. But well, yeah. How about you, Adam? Why don't you share? Yeah, what's your situation as far as working online right now? Is your team still going? Are you in a fortunate position to still have work coming in?
Ahead. I'm in the software industry, so shelter in place was kind of an immediate thing. Closed up the office and everything instead of work remote as soon as we could, just because there's not really need for it. We've already had remote connections. We're first-class citizens from the beginning. So this has been kind of a quick, smooth, easy transition for me. At the same time, the fact that I can't travel, that's more of an issue for me now, is just not because I need to, but because that's just my identity. But at the same time, I've always kind of prided myself on that. I could just be dropped off in the world with my laptop and my backpack, and I'm good to go. And I'm able to do that here. So just trying to keep to the same routines, a lot more online interactivity, so moving a lot of meetings and conferences online. I've had so many dozens of hours of live stream just this week between a conference that I was paying attention to and meetings and things like that. Yeah, but that's the future. I've been hearing a lot of feedback from other people that are not in a similar industry. Teachers, for example, I've talked to a lot of them who are trying to do Zoom classes for their students in elementary school, high school now, and all the different transition that's happening with that. And I'm seeing that's going to be something that's going to suddenly lurch forward in a huge way in the coming weeks. Industries like mine have been doing this for a decade or so now, but other ones, this is their first time trying to do this. And I don't really see that genie being put back in the bottle after this. The pandemic will pass, but the distributed life that remote work, that's going to be something that's going to stick around. The school years next year, businesses, when people go in apply for a new job, they're going to be expecting these things going forward. So we're going to be at an interesting crossroads to see kind of just how it starts to transition towards more of that distributed remote nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's going to be possibly, I mean, I'm sure for some people, an unwelcome change, and it's likely going to be a difficult transition for many people. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a good thing, getting more people working remotely in some sense. Maybe we'll look back in a few years and we'll be like, oh, thank God I don't have to do that horrible commute anymore. Like perhaps that'll be a thing of the past in a large way. I mean, there's obviously, like, one thing I want to say, man, actually, like, even here on the ground, like there's still a lot of people driving around during the day. I mean, we're allowed to, one person per household technically is allowed to go out and get necessities and things. But when I have gone to the store for supplies and stuff, I've noticed that it appears here on the ground, and I hear similarly from a lot of people, it's a lot of construction workers and maintenance folks, and I've actually been really, really incredibly pleasantly surprised, particularly here. Like, there have been a few really short power outages, and but I was already, for the last year, I've already become accustomed to a situation where, like, our water goes out for almost a whole day, typically at least once a week, sometimes twice. I mean, it's been off for like 3 days straight before in the past, and power outages are not too common, but they're common enough. So I've just been really impressed, I guess, that like they're keeping the services running, and infrastructure so far here has actually been, surprisingly stable. So and I think the same is probably similar in most places. So it's like, I haven't been to the hospital. My father actually is going into the hospital tomorrow back in California for surgery, so I'm thinking of him. But but yeah, you know, like people that are in those lines of work where it cannot be done remotely, you know, people taking care of the sick and people keeping our infrastructure running and those kinds of things. I mean, it's kind of their moment to shine. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of recognize that, and it's a cool time to see how, even though the system is certainly being kind of tested to its limits, like I think those folks are really stepping up and showing their reliability, I guess. Lily, good to have you back. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if you heard the initial question, but you know, I just kind of wanted to go around and see what your guys' thoughts were on what are the, before we dive into solutions and opportunities and kind of looking more at the bright side. I mean, what are the main drawbacks, setbacks, problems that you see for people in your community, in particular, like nomads or people who are abroad right now, you know, not in their home country? What do you think on that topic?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you guys have already discussed this, but it's a pretty like shitty time to be dealing with visas. And for the Thai government, that hasn't been clear. I'm lucky enough, I'm a Thai citizen, and like my boyfriend's lucky that he had his education visa sorted before all this happened and like had just gone in for like a 90-day report. But there's a lot of people who basically like live here but like don't have you know, the legal right to do so. And for them, going back to Europe or North America like was kind of like not an option. And so trying to figure out how to stay here, I think certainly seems to have been a challenge. I've been like keeping in touch with a couple friends who were basically just like, this is bizarre. Does no one have any like accurate information? Yeah. And even when like they do have visas, and even when they have been able to like get the letter, like people have been able to get a letter from their embassy to qualify for like a 30-day extension in immigration. And even in those cases, I think at like Chiang Mai immigration, it was like this nightmare scenario where it's like, it's April, so it's hot as balls outside, and they're temperature gunning people before they go in. But, you know, like if the ambient temperature outside is like really hot and someone's just been like waiting out in the heat and you temperature gun them, like you're maybe not getting an accurate reading. And then a friend who couldn't even go in. Yeah. And like we're seeing all of these like news releases that like, oh, maintain social distancing, blah, 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 blah. People should be queuing properly. And then I heard like horror stories about Bangkok, where one of my colleagues is based right now, that like you're just like shoved in there with all of humanity, and you have no other option to just like put yourself and everyone else at risk, because you know it's, you know, like I guess low on the priority list for the Thai government right now. There is talk about like a visa amnesty, which just seems like the most like sensible, like humane thing to do, and also just the most administratively easy thing to do. But yeah, I think that definitely seems to be a problem. But I think other than that, like the biggest thing is people don't really have the like mental tools to, I think, cope with this scenario. It's just so disproportionate to anything in any of our realities. And the people who I'm noticing, definitely people who are like type A, kind of like planners, are having a hard time. But I'm definitely seeing that the friends who like live on their own, and like we're already kind of like socially isolated because of that, seem to be having the hardest time adjusting. Like the friends I have been checking, the friends and family members I've been checking in with, who are living with their partners or like housemates, seem to be like doing okay. But the people who are on their own, just like, you know, seem to still be going like very like
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you bring up a number of really good points there, Lily. Yeah, I just to address it really quickly, I think for nomads in particular, that is one issue, one problem that I mean, I've seen some countries address it already, but yeah, like you say, Thailand and I'm sure many other places are behind the ball because it's not priority one at the moment, you know. And it's like a game of whispers online, you know, with social media. I mean, one person hears something or they even just think something and they share their story and then it gets passed around. I mean, yeah, I'd heard many, I guess, rumors or just unconfirmed stories, you know, about particularly about visa situation. I'd even heard from one of my good friends up in Pi who was concerned that there was talk about like what do they call it? Like basically expelling all foreigners. And I don't think
Oof.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but I don't think it's that extreme, at least not at this point, which is good. But I mean, yeah, it's a time when obviously it's like there's a delicate balance, right? Because as we've said, I think it's of the utmost importance right now to stay connected, right? And do try to share information and just look out for each other. And but at the same time, it's so easy to be kind of overcome by fear or doubts. And if that's the stuff that people are spreading around, I mean, it spreads like wildfire. I think that the fear and the uncertainty from the situation are actually, I mean, I'm not denying the existence of this disease, but I think that the psychological impact is far more we may not like a lot of people may not recover from this, you know. I think that as a society we will get through this, but it's going to definitely have a very negative impact on too many people, too many individuals, unfortunately. So I mean, that's why I want to be doing more streams like this and just getting people together. I know a lot of people are doing, you know, conference calls and like you said, Zach, you know, catching up with old friends you may not have been in touch with for a while. So I think that's one of the great things about this, is it's really reminding us like what matters, you know, what matters to you, like who are the people that you're concerned about, who do you miss, who do you love, you know, and then, you know, just on the whole in life or in business, you know, yeah, what are the things that if everything else around us falls apart, what are the one or couple things that you can focus on? You know, what's your passion project or your reason for being here that you can still kind of continue to work on, irrespective of what's going on around you or needing to rely on other people and other things. So, you know, yeah, there's so many good topics you guys brought up there. But I think I'd like to, within the Foundry, you know, again, to reiterate, like, as you said, Lily, this is going to be, I think, the most challenging on people who are by themselves. And, you know, I'm not going to pull up the research here, but you guys can do the Googling. I mean, I've read before, you know, like what do they call it? You know, when you're imprisoned under isolation, what's
solitary confinement.
Thank you. Solitary confinement, you know, has like a horrible effect on the human mind and mental health over a long period of time, especially. But yeah, even just a few days or a week, if the whole world around you is changing in unprecedented ways, you know, and you lack that community or that connection to others, yeah, it can be very psychologically damaging. And in a way, you know, I'm happy that like that particularly is what I had set out to address myself, is like psychology in a big way, mindset, and helping people build that inner strength in themselves. Like that's why the HERO Foundry has existed from the beginning, and as trying of times as these are for someone in my position, it's my opportunity to step up, you know, and show what I'm made of. We'll see how I do, but I'm trying to serve people as best I can, you know, and yeah, point people's attention to tools and resources and ideas that I think will help them through a really difficult period of time such as this. So I mean, yeah, there's a whole conversation to be had about psychology and mindset, but you guys have all brought up relationships, which I think is probably the biggest key right now. I was going to say, like within the Foundry, some of my frameworks that I lead these guys through, you know, I call it the 4 pillars of life, of a strong, stable life, are mindset, health, wealth, and relationships. And idea, like you want to build yourself up in all four of those areas to really like feel like you have a life on fire in a good way, you know. But that it's almost like a table, you know. You could maybe knock out one of the legs of the table, and as long as you've got like 2 or 3 really sturdy ones, it'll still hold. But you know, once you take away 2 or 3, like you're done, you know. And I think, yeah, that we each have those 4 primary realms of our lives that kind of uphold whatever else you want to build with your your life, your business, your time here. So I try to teach and lead people through a process to kind of methodically really clarify all those areas and recognize what's weak, where your weak points are, and find ways to build them up, and then we hold each other accountable, you know, in masterminds and stuff. And in many ways, you know, in my perspective, my way of looking at the world, I kind of start with mindset, because I think it all, like we have so much influence and power over the external stuff when we can, you know, not control, but best control our thoughts, you know, our beliefs. And really, at the end of the day, that's kind of the only thing you do have full influence over, is how you look at situations in the world around you. And then the other, you know, your health is somewhat external, right? It's based on your beliefs and just ideas that you hold to some degree, you know. And then wealth and business and what you're able to create with your time, your career, your effort, your energy, it kind of becomes an extension of that. Like, if you're more healthy, you're able to get out there and build more, you know, be more active, maintain the momentum, I guess, in your work to succeed. And then relationships in a way are largely affected by how you're doing in wealth, in your career, in business. You know, if you generate more abundance for yourself, then you're able to kind of include more and more other people in your world, in whatever it is you're building. You know, you're able to help out and do fun things with friends. You're able to, I mean, build a bigger business that influences more customers in a good way. You're able to provide for a family and so on. So in my view, you know, I do really try to stress that I think things largely begin within, you know, with your own thought process, your beliefs, and so forth. But today I do want to sort of flip it around. Like, they're all equally important, of course. But I do want to flip it around because like I say, I think relationships are key right now. And not everyone, unfortunately, you know, is in a position where they have that particular pillar dialed in, or maybe they're seeing that it has exposed that perhaps some people are lacking the strong ties and connections that they wish they had. So I'd like to kind of, yeah, ask for your guys' expertise in maybe each of these areas, and maybe we'll start with relationships. But on the whole, yeah, I just wanted to point out, you know, we've identified several problems and obstacles, I suppose, here, but it's always good to then ask yourself, you know, so why is this bad thing that happened, or this problem, why is it a good thing? You know, why is that positive? And generally, I would just encourage everybody watching that while it's going to create some pain, you know, having your whole world shaken up and everything that we've come to rely on is not as reliable as we've become accustomed to. But I think the biggest positive, I think there's many, but the biggest is that this is exposing, you know, the weak points in your life, in your systems that you've set up, which is always a painful process, but it's actually, you know, on the hero's journey, like that's the the work that must be done is really digging into the problems and identifying the your own weak areas in your life, in your family, in your business, and then seeking ways to to build those things up more strong and cultivate whatever self-reliance that you possibly can, so that you're not as I mean, what was it Taleb that wrote Anti-Fragile? Finding ways to provide for yourself where possible, and set yourself up to have more stability based on your own systems rather than relying on outside things. So I think that, this is kind of a great chance where it's exposing the cracks. I mean, in the overall, the work, like government systems, how travel and supply chains and everything works around us. It's certainly exposing the cracks and the weaknesses there, and it will do the same in each of our lives individually. And it's an unpleasant experience to go through, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually a really, really good thing. So that's the biggest opportunity or silver lining I see here. If you guys want to jump in, I mean, what do you think, just generally, and then let's dive into maybe focus on each of those 4 core areas. But what are the biggest silver linings you guys have noticed, or any revelations that have kind of come about just since the start of this very different way of life we're living at the moment?
Raising my hand.
Go for it.
I want to dig into one specific thing that you said, that this is the time to be cultivating self-reliance. And maybe this is a very gendered perspective, because like the way that like women and men deal with stress and like what the most like common internal like issues are that they need to do the self-work on, that they need to like cultivate strength in, is different. But I think a lot of people right now, what they don't need to cultivate the self-reliance, what they need to cultivate is like trust in their network and their relationships. And the thing that I have the most difficult time with is asking for help. And I was sick, like right before, as we were going into shutdown, like maybe with just a flu, maybe with like coronavirus, we don't know. And I was like having a really hard time because I couldn't perform. I couldn't be productive. I felt like I was like useless and like not contributing to the household. My brain wasn't working, so I couldn't really collaborate with colleagues. And it was the hardest thing for me to do, was just to like rest and take care of myself, because the need to like prove my value and prove that I'm like being in the room. And I've been having lots of conversations with friends that like who like female entrepreneurs are having this issue as well. They like, oh, like, what do I do when like I'm used to being the helper, I'm used to being the carer, I'm used to being the person who like provides community and leadership, and right now I'm not capable of doing that. Sometimes like in times of stress and crisis like this, sometimes the thing that you need to work on is understanding how to reach out and ask for support and to be comfortable receiving it.
Hey, absolutely. No, that's a very, you're spot on. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that perspective, and I think you're right. Maybe self-reliance is not quite the most accurate word, but I guess resilience is kind of more what I was talking about, and that's the inner strength. Like I believe we all could use, you could always improve that, but you're absolutely right. Like, and that's why I do want to bring the conversation to relationships. So that's a great point you make. And I think, that now is the time, like whether you're living at home, like myself included, I know a lot of people, these days tend not to even get to know their neighbors. And particularly if you're a nomad, like Zach, I'm not quite sure exactly what your current living situation is, but, if you're in a place that you're unfamiliar with, you start out not knowing those people. But I think obviously this is the time to, if possible, maybe maintaining some distance, but yeah, it's a time to focus on, getting to know your neighbors, be a good neighbor, to the best of your ability. And even if it is remotely, like double down on the relationships that matter most to you. So let's dive into that then. And in my mind, Zach, I want to give you a bit of spotlight, because this is an area I think that you're focused on in your career and in your work, is relationships. But what thoughts do you have just generally for people, you know, as we've been talking about, like in this social isolation situation, or whether they're far away from home or whatever, but what do you, I don't know, I'll just open the floor and yeah, let you maybe give some of your perspective on things you're doing right now, or things that you would recommend that people do to highlight, you know, their relationships and work on building in that particular area.
Just one thought. I thought Lily's comment about the whole take on self-reliance being a bit of a gendered experience, I think that's quite interesting and probably apt, because I hear the word self-reliance as a man. I think of, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and, you know, it really appeals to me on a deep level. I really love that idea. Not to discount Lily's point at all, but, you know, just to play self-reliance advocate for a moment. When I look back in my life, you know, the periods in which I've experienced the most intense growth and often pain, and I would say the periods of my life in which I've experienced the most growth in terms of my capability to help others have been during times when I've been forced to be very self-reliant. So I think a hell of a lot of good can come out of, you know, those dark nights of the soul, so to speak, and those moments or those experiences where you're forced to be very, very alone. And I've had several of those in my life, and I'm enormously grateful for them. So just you know, brief thought on that. The other thought in terms of investing in relationships, I've actually been thinking about this week, because I have a close male friend, and I know he's in some pain, and he doesn't seem to want to. He has a lot of walls, and he has troubles around male intimacy, as a lot of men do. And I care about him, but it doesn't seem like he really is willing to sort of let someone in and, you know, accept some brotherly love. And I was thinking about one of my favorite quotes. A Russian concert pianist named Andrei Gavrilov wrote this in his autobiography. He said, "Give love and seek no reward. Reciprocal love is your reward and the meaning of life in its entirety." And I've thought about that a lot. And I think in terms of investing in relationships in general, you kind of want to approach it, at least to my mind, as like a gift. So you have a gift to offer. You're not going to force someone to accept the gift if they don't want to force it. You're not going to be needy and expect something in return for offering a gift. You're just going to offer a gift. And if they want it, great. And if they don't, that's okay too. So, you know, I've been trying to, in my own little way, and I'm certainly not perfect. I have moments of slipping up and being selfish and all the rest, but I'm trying to approach my relationships that way. You know, I just sent a message to a friend who I haven't spoken to in probably 3 or 4 years. Hey, how you doing? How's your family doing? You know, thinking of you, because I know he's in an industry that's going to be impacted by the economic crisis. Just little gestures like that. I think, you know, we can be surprised by how much they can make our day. I had an old friend reach out to me yesterday who I haven't heard from in years, and it kind of just made my whole day. So just approaching relationships like that, just little investments here and there, tending to the part of the garden you can touch, as Jack Cornfield puts it. And approaching just
I love that. Sorry,
yeah,
but I love that.
It's a great quote. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Jack Cornfield, look him up. But just approaching relationships like that and approaching human interaction like that, it often doesn't take much to really have a substantial impact on someone's day. And yeah, and I'm really valuing that the deeper I go into that idea. So yeah, very, very briefly on relationships.
That's great, man. Yeah, thank you for sharing some of that perspective. What about the other two of you guys? Do you have any thoughts on you know, what's your situation right now with the relationships around you, and what are you doing to stay connected or reconnect with people?
Well, one thing I wanted to kind of comment on was you mentioned about with neighbors. My background, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, so we had snowstorms all the time. So kind of having this 2-week shut-in out of nowhere, this kind of wasn't really on the radar in my childhood. And something that I've noticed through just kind of that culture there in that city versus some other places I've traveled to, is that there definitely seemed to be a little bit more of a neighborly camaraderie to that, because you never knew when you were going to break down and you need to get someone to pull you out of the side of the road, or your heater was going to go out in the middle of the winter, things like that. So kind of created this equality there. It didn't matter what your background was, what your job was, you all had suffered the same snowstorm and weathered the storm together. And it definitely created that sort of camaraderie that I haven't really seen a lot of other places sometimes. So this is definitely one of those times that needs that, where we have to keep the social distancing now, but now is also time to get to know the people that are around us. The people that are our neighbors right now, whether this is just because we're passing through somewhere and we're stuck here until the layover passes, or they've been our neighbors all our lives. Like this is the time to kind of look at the people that are immediately around us and see how we can help each other to weather this out.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, did we lose Zach? Okay, he's got to go. Well, Zach, yeah, thank you for being with us, man. I appreciate seeing your beautiful mug again. What was I? I think, yeah, this is the hardest thing is with the amount of fear and it's uncertainty. It's like it's such a wave of uncertainty in so many areas of life in a way I've never seen before. I don't think anyone has seen before, and we could it's easy to speculate on a lot of things, like how this could turn out, or even just what the biggest risks are. But underneath it all, it's just pure uncertainty. Some would call it chaos. Because we don't. It's like we thought we had some firm ground to stand on underneath us, and in many ways, we're finding out like it's like the rug's been pulled out from under us, or the systems around us are just not as stable as we've been used to them being. And so I think when anyone on an individual level, when faced with great uncertainty, like just no idea what tomorrow is going to look like, maybe, that causes so much fear and stress and anxiety, that it's easy to kind of to not be a good neighbor, to not have patience, and one of the things I am seeing so much of online is just people, and I'm not going to call anyone in particular out, but it's just a general trend. Yeah, I didn't say it. Dwight said it, but he's too, come on, man. Come on the stream. You always just type your comments to me rather than getting on here. That's okay. I'll be your mouth. Dwight said snitches. Yeah, that's one. But just generally, people kind of lashing out to one degree or another. And it could be simply, it's like I understand their point, but I see so many angry commenters on Facebook right now. Like on my little island, there's a bunch of expat groups, and that's predominantly the main place I've been putting my focus, because I want to know what's going on locally right here around me. And again, it's like there is that game of whispers, and nobody really knows what the heck's going on in every jurisdiction. Like things are different, but I do think it's important to, at least I'm a father, and I got a household with 4 people in it. So, particular for me especially, I feel the weight on my shoulders to, like, not everyone needs to, but I feel the responsibility to at least do my best to understand what the heck is going on around me. But in those kind of circles, I see, so people are just wanting to know, because there's checkpoints, there's all these rules. Where I am, we had to get a quarantine pass, and you have to show your papers, and you're not supposed to leave the house without. Do you have the same there?
I just want to offer a perspective on this. I think right now there's a lot of people who are searching for information, and there's a lot of people shouting, trying to be authoritative, trying to say oh, this, not that, because in the absence of understanding and certainty, I think people are trying to control the situation. And the way they're trying to control the situation sometimes is by seeming to have an opinion. Like they want to project that they have their shit together more than everyone else, because this whole thing freaks them out so much.
Right.
And so I think that's what's generating a lot of noise. It's anxiety coming out. So I think what a healthy thing to do would actually just be to see that and just accept that you do not have control of the situation. The world is not normal right now. The things that you're used to knowing, that you're used to having power over, you do not. So figure out what you can control, which, as you pointed out earlier, is yourself, and focus on that. Focus on what on putting your energy in a productive place.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like when I see people's behavior, I understand most of it, you know, because I've been there. I've made the same mistakes. And, you know, I was a different person a year ago, let alone 5-10 years ago than I am today. But I think, yeah, this situation, because of the just never before seen levels of anxiety across the whole population. I mean, you know, well, here, for example, it's like me and my wife, you know, I'm sure most of you guys in relationships are going through this. Like we've been known to have a fight or two, you know, and there was probably one about a week ago that got a little off the handle. But, you know, like stuff like people are just, we're all worried. There's a lot of doubt and uncertainty, and it manifests through kind of lashing out at one another in different ways. And so it's like, yeah, on the one hand, I see that, I understand it, but it does concern me. Yeah, like I just see so much of this online. Yeah, people pointing their fingers. You know, I was going to say, you know, in some of these expat groups locally here, I mean, people are just asking for information, you know, like I need to, I'll just talk about myself. My concern, whatever happens, I hope I don't need it. But my biggest concern is supply chain, because we're on a little island that does not produce very much of its own food. And there's 0 boats going in and out, 0 flights going in and out. And, you know, it is a developing world country. And I said earlier, like, I've been amazed and really, really proud of the people that are keeping the infrastructure going so far. But who knows what could happen tomorrow. And food for 4 people is probably my #1 responsibility. So I've just been spending a ton of time in the garden, you know, and just, it's like I've wanted to do that for so long. I learned a bunch of stuff with Dwight when I was with him in Bangkok back last February. And, you know, I've been dabbling in little tiny ways over the last year. But like this gave me the push to like, okay, now's the time, like start putting stuff in your garden. Like we have the space and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, so in my situation, I was like, well, while I still can at least go out for necessities, I'm going to go make sure I have what I need from the hardware store. And, you know, went to a gardening store, even though there was social pressure not to do so, just to get some planting soils, things like that. But, you know, like everyone has their own priorities and their own whatever things that they think that they should be doing to be prepared for this and to, you know, be responsible for whatever situation they have. And so, you know, people are asking lots of questions, wondering like what's open, what the rules are, where they can go, blah, blah, blah. But I keep seeing angry people going, stay the fuck home, like, in all caps, stay the fuck home, you know, it's like that kind of thing, like people pointing their finger and just unleashing anger. And yeah, some people kind of like, I've heard lots of stories about people calling the cops on their neighbors and this and that. And I mean, it kind of jives with what we've been saying. It's like, man, just focus on yourself. That would be my advice. It's like, you might have a point that, yeah, we want to minimize close interaction, of course, to try to kill this damn virus, right? I get that. But also, you don't know what some stranger's situation is. You barely know what your neighbor's situation is, you know? And it's like, just be concerned about yourself. There's a parable from the Bible, you know, one of Jesus's teachings that I kind of would want to go into here. But, you know, rather than focusing on what you think someone else is doing wrong, just try to act accordingly, you know, like do what you think is best, lead by example. So yeah, sorry, is there a question here? Lily's getting tired of hearing me rant. Yeah, I guess I'm open for your guys' perspective on we're kind of dabbling into the psychology now, but yeah, what do we need to do, you know, to avoid lashing out at one another, to try to help reel people in our communities back to just a more calm, patient mindset with one another, and how can we lead by example rather than just shouting at one another and, you know, feeding to the anger in the air.
I can get us started and like share something that I've like seen happening in the Chiang Mai community. Is, you know, because a lot of the expats here don't have the same sort of like social safety net because they're not like quote unquote like at home, you know, where they have like relatives and like deeply enmeshed relationships. I've seen people like really step up because they kind of know that in this situation they're going to be an afterthought for the Thai government. And so I've seen a lot of Facebook groups being created specifically for different neighborhoods in Chiang Mai, where the admins have been very active about posting like bulletin updates, translating news from Thai, any announcement from the governor being translated. People are gathering like signing up on like volunteer to volunteer. Like, so if you require support, if you're housebound or if you're in quarantine and you need assistance, so you can sign up, and other people are volunteering to help out. And I think these like smaller spaces are like, you know, safer than like the large general communities. And I've seen like people behave and interact in like really positive ways, actually, like in light of the whole crisis.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that too, and I think that's what the world needs right now. Yeah. What about you gentlemen, especially the quiet one, Dwight? What's going on in Bangkok? Like, yeah, are you seeing any of those kind of trends, like just local community? I mean, you guys have quite a community you're plugged into. What do you think people can do to lead by example and serve?
Yeah, there's much suspect information out there, you know. So I think just putting out good information, just spending some time getting into some of those, you know, like those things that were always good things, but we just haven't had time to really invest in them. So, I mean, I think even people that are like really isolated have somebody that they can be reaching out to online, you know, some relationships that we can kind of dust off and get back to. Here for us, that has meant being able to kind of share some of those like food relationships that we've been making. We've been making friends in the market. We've been ordering food from farmers and things like that, and just being able to you know, point people to places where they can get food without having to go to the supermarket, because we're fortunate to be in a place where, you know, there's no shortage of food. Now there's supply chain issues, but you know, there's just an abundance of food here. So, you know, even had a friend send me a thank you message this morning. It's a friend who's vision impaired, and she said, "Oh, I got my CSA box, so I got my, you know, veggies and fruit and stuff from the place that you recommended." So it's like, you know, basically a farmer lady who's, you know, bringing it straight to her house, which is pretty incredible. But these are some of the things that should always be important to us, like diversifying where we get our food, growing some of our own food, not being super dependent on the supermarket, not just because of health reasons, but just this idea of this interconnectedness, and, you know, knowing what's going on with the farmers, or even ordering stuff that you know that you yourself can't finish by yourself. So it kind of forces you to you know, approach a neighbor you might not know as well, or even neighbors you know well, or sharing that stuff with family members. You know, where we get, for example, a box of sweet potatoes. You know, we have enough space that we could freeze all of those, but we can give them away to people as well. And yeah, there are some challenges. Some people are more standoffish than it, you know, especially as foreigners, and they should be. Everybody should be being careful. But I think there's definitely some opportunities there that we kind of have to seek out. And yeah, part of that has been in those kind of online communities. for us, I'm looking forward to kind of coming out of this and everybody has a bigger interest in cooking for themselves, you know, because that is, of course, it's not always, you know, highest on people's lists, especially in Bangkok where you may not have the space and everything to do it. But now I think that people have had a taste of their own cooking for a couple of days. So they want to know, like, what am I doing wrong, and what can I do for this, and I can't get this meat or that or whatever. What can I substitute? And I think that if we can kind of, you know, be in the right place at the right time and get some information online in time, that'll be a good, that'll be something good for us in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's another one of the silver linings, I guess. I mean, you know, we've probably all seen the headlines, right? Like the smog and the pollution are clearing up, which is great, right? Maybe we need to rethink travel to, well, yeah, not for you, sorry, not for Lily, but you know, like globally, right? That's what I've seen, because there's hardly any planes flying and people are staying at home, which I think that's a positive. And yeah, like you're kind of addressing there, Dwight, and like I was saying, like I've been spending the last several days straight in the garden, which, by the way, I know not everyone is able to do that, but if you have space or if you have a garden, like, dude, oh my God, best anxiety killer ever. So anyways, but it's a silver lining because it's making us think about the stuff that we just never thought about before. You know, the stuff that we were unconscious of is making that conscious. So yeah, think about, where does your food come from? I mean, it's like you're gonna think more now about the person who makes your food, I hope, right? And those connections and yeah, like how, I mean, really, this is like highlighting how we are all connected, like you said, Dwight. And I think it will promote, yeah, more consciousness of like the source of I mean, food is of course the #1 necessity of life, right? But a lot of things, supply chains, like, you know, where do these things come from? Who makes them? And could we be supporting someone more locally? You know, could we make these systems more sustainable? Could we find new ways as a community to like collaborate, to help each other out? You know, we may need to do that in certain places over the coming weeks or months. So it's going to be tough, but I think it's overall a really positive change, really. Let's shift gears though into wealth, the wealth pillar, and you know, thinking of people's work, people's businesses. There's unfortunately a lot of folks out there who you know, are relying upon a company or an employer, right? And some of them are still unaffected, thank goodness, but a lot of people are. And so that's a very tough position to be in, and with the uncertainty of not knowing how long the situation is going to last and what the economic impact is going to be. But yeah, I mean, Lily, I would really love to get your expertise here, because I think you swim in those waters quite a bit and you're connected well in that world. But then from all of you guys, I mean, yeah, how do you think that this impacts people generally from an economic perspective? What do you think is the benefit to moving to online work, and maybe what are some things people should be focusing on right now to position themselves as best as possible?
Yeah, I think fairly early on, I was trying to point out some silver linings in this whole thing as the crisis was like coming upon us, and other people were just like horrified. They didn't even want to acknowledge it, because they're like, what do you mean like the tourism industry is going to shut down? I think they're very much in denial, and I'm just like, well, it's happening. So here's this. And I think one thing we can like clearly see is that like the whole remote work movement we've just like been pushed forward probably like a decade in terms of like adoption and understanding and like implementing these things. And I've always been a huge proponent of remote work, because I think it's an economic liberator. Like when when your market is the world, that is incredibly powerful. If, I think of the impact of doing something like, if you can teach someone who is from, a country where they can't trust their government, where there's not good rule of law, and they don't have access to good opportunities to make money, if they can get online and then get access to a computer and they can learn to code, all of a sudden they have this valuable skill. They can participate in an economic market beyond their own. And with that economic agency can come political agency and the ability to make an impact. And so, that's prior to the whole crisis. That's been one of the fundamental philosophies that's really motivated me in sort of doing ecosystem building for startups and trying to explore ways to make that inclusive. I think, those of us on this call and many of the people who are probably watching this, we are some of the most economically advantaged and most privileged people. If you're able to be a digital nomad, that means that you have a passport from a country with the strength to negotiate these kind of relationships, that you have the freedom to move. That's a privilege. If you are able to work online, you are a knowledge worker. You are participating in a growing sector of the economy and something that's becoming increasingly important. And so we're, relatively speaking, we're going to survive this, I think, just fine. And I know so many friends who are their projects are thriving right now. I have friends who are consultants who help companies transition to managing their teams entirely remotely. I have friends who work, who do affiliate marketing for web services, and they're killing it right now. And I know people who founded online communities and platforms that we're using things like this right now, and they're totally thriving in this time. So I think many of us have acknowledged that we're relatively lucky in all this. And so, the way I see the world, I think okay, I'm really fucking lucky in all this. What can I do to give back? And so just on the very small scale, because this was so easy for me and not easy for my friend. So Dow, the owner of Small House Cafe, obviously they're a bar and it was low season already. And then the smoke was bad. So many people who were their customers had cleared out. So they were already stressed financially. And the fact that they've had to close and they still need to pay rent, they only have one lever to push to make money. This is a hard time for them. And so I helped Dow set up a system to sell drink vouchers because, they have a very loyal customer base. There are many people who have had many happy memories in that bar and would be happy to just give them a little cash injection to help them get through this time. But she just literally didn't know how to do that. When I asked her if she had a PayPal account, she didn't know what PayPal was. Mm-hmm. And so that was the easiest thing for me to obviously I'm used to thinking about how to set up these systems. I can do things digitally. I can create graphics in Canva to help her promote it and do a little copywriting and share it around on social media. And so that was an easy thing to do. That's that's not really scalable, but I think people are exploring this in different ways. I'm trying to think about what my core competencies are, which I do a lot of facilitating and events management, and I've got the resources of the Draper Startup House team, and within the company we've been building up our ventures, sort of been pushing forward with a lot more just power on building out our ventures arm to build a venture syndicate, because right now we know that funding is drying up, but we have a network of VCs and accelerators, incubators who want ideas, who want startups. The capital is there, and we want to make sure that we can connect it to people during a time where they really need it. The team organized a virtual conference within the span of 2 weeks. Hello, this is Chiang. We still have jets. Loud, sorry. Yeah, and sort of, so we know what we're good at. We know what we have within our network to leverage, and so we're trying to figure out what we can deliver offline and to translate online. And so something very specific that is a little more scalable than just me helping out Small House that I'm trying to work on is building up a calendar of virtual programs, things like virtual co-working, virtual meetups, virtual networking, virtual happy hour, to sort of help people to create structure and have opportunities to like connect, because I know what I'm really having a hard time with right now, and I imagine a lot of other people are. And like, that's my jam. I love tech. I love facilitating, and so that's what I like, want to put out there to help support other people, so that this can become a productive time for them rather than just like a disaster.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the things I've been thinking is even for those who are in a position where either they don't have a business set up yet, or for whatever reason, like their income has been, very negatively affected, and it might be kind of out of their hands. One thing I've been encouraging a lot of my students and people I work with is like, well, at the very least, now is the time. Like, if you're going to be sitting at home for weeks and people have little to do other than to seek out information online or watch Netflix, I mean, this is the time to at least get your face out there and establish yourself as a leader, in some sense. And I mean, I just want to kind of congratulate or thank you, I guess, because that's really beautiful to hear what you've been doing, helping our friends at Small House. I mean, it's a micro example of what I mean by like lead by example and serve if you have the ability. And so that's awesome. If those of us who have skills that we could put to use in some way to help people in need right now, the way Lily has, follow that example. Even if it's just something small, but like that's what we all need to be doing. Do small kind.
And you don't need to help everyone. You can just help one person.
Yeah. But I also wanted to say, go ahead. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about Draper House. And you guys recently put on like a virtual summit or something, right?
Yeah, so within 2 weeks, we put together Breakthrough, which was an online conference. And so we ran it. We sort of like chased the sun. We did it segment in Asia, Europe, and North America, and gathered 8 to 10 speakers speaking on a variety of topics. These are like top level investors. We had Tim Draper, who like the company is named after, the prominent investor, celebrity investor, sort of opened up and did the keynote. We had like Craig Wright on for Europe to talk about people really like high up within the industries, people who have expertise on how to build businesses in crises, because we just felt like, this is what we can access, right? We at Draper Startup House are very fortunate. The people we have on the team and the connections that we have a really great network. And so that was the thing we decided to leverage so that we could provide value to our community right now. Because the core part of our business is brick and mortar, we just realized we've had to shut most of our locations around the world. And so we had all this bandwidth and and I think the kinds of people on our team are not the kind of people who are just gonna sit back and be depressed. We're all doers. The way that we deal with crisis is is through action. And so I'm super impressed with what the team managed to pull together in a very short amount of time. And we have also been working on the DEN, the Draper Entrepreneurial Network, because we have people who pass through our doors, who stay at our hostels, who come to our events, who we connect with through our programming. And so we have an informal network that is really awesome. We have people stay in touch, and our teams are on a very one-to-one manual level, always trying to connect them with more support, but that's just not scalable. And so we've been also figuring out how to translate that into a better experience online. So we're working on launching an MVP, which is basically just like a Slack group, a managed Slack channel that all of our people can join, because we just have a wonderful network and access to people at the VC investor level, people on the sort of the corporate level to find partnerships, who do entrepreneurship things. We have entrepreneurs with ideas. We have people who are still sort of younger aspirational phase. They're trying to explore if entrepreneurship and startups is for them. And we just want to foster those connections. So to empower people, our whole thing is like connect, inspire, empower. And so we're very much in a phase of like figuring out how to do that online. The core of our business is we really believe in like hospitality as the backbone of the startup ecosystem. Because, if you've built a business and you realize a lot of the value comes from just like sitting at the kitchen table with somebody with experience, and you're sort of like shooting the shit, and like you chat and you can like learn so much in those moments. And so that's why we've heavily invested into like the offline experience, because we believe in those magic moments. But considering that we are like a 100% like remote team, we have these capabilities. Like many of us have worked in tech. We're like, okay, well, now we're gonna like cultivate the online part. That was gonna be like a phase 2. Now it's at the forefront of the business.
That's awesome.
So #pivot.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, it's really, I've been fascinated seeing what little tidbits I have from you over the last couple of months. But yeah, I want to have you on here and do a more in-depth dive one-on-one and learn about what you guys are working on. But I think that's one of the things that certainly the world needs right now is like building on that network effect, And yeah, if you've got good resources to help empower people right now, like get it out there, like work on your distribution channels and all of that. So yeah. Is there are any of the resources, the videos and stuff from the recent conference available still for people? Is there any resources you would point folks to that are interested in getting into that world right now?
Yeah. So I'll drop in the link for the Draper Entrepreneurial Network, because we're starting to like accept people. In a couple of days, we're working on shoring up the processes to streamline stuff so that we can start accepting like pitch decks and do like investor matching for the ventures side. So that's coming along like literally within the next couple of days. The team have been like working nonstop on that, and so I'll share that for people to get involved. Wait, I like sort of went off on a tangent. You had a first part of the question that I don't think I've answered.
Oh, I was just curious if any of the videos were still available online.
Yes, videos. Yeah. So we had a hiccup where we got banned from YouTube, like 3/4 of the way through the stream in Asia. So just like a tech, so we're still, we just had like our postmortem on that. So we're still waiting to implement the tech solution. But we do have, LinkedIn is probably one of the most reliable places to get our content right now. So just the LinkedIn for Draper Startup House. And stuff will start coming out on that in the very near future.
Cool. Well, yeah, give me a couple links and I'll make sure and include those in the description when I repackage this up online for you guys. So check the description. But that's fascinating. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing, Lily. What about Adam, Dwight? Do you guys have any thoughts in the realm of the wealth pillar, and like, is there much you're doing to adapt to just this different world we're suddenly in, or any thoughts you have for people that might be kind of more new getting into the online game? I mean, Dwight, of course, you're like what we're talking about, brick and mortar primarily, but you've been involved in a lot of things online throughout the years. I just built a brick and mortar and I'm having to pivot. But yeah, what other thoughts do you guys have in that realm?
I think you covered all of that really well. That's exciting, all that you're working on. I've actually been kind of starting to put together some similar plans myself. I've been running a tech community locally here for a little bit. And like I had kind of mentioned earlier in the call, with this dramatic shift that we're having now to be more into this remote digital age, I'm really seeing a big need where people they need to know how to do these things. There's different business opportunities that can come up from it. There's different just needs for that stability day to day. Like a lot with the teaching and the community around that. So I've got a little bit of side project I'm working on that I'll fill you in some details a little bit later on. But definitely seeing a huge shift in that direction. Like I said before, it's not going to go backwards. We're going to have to make some changes globally really quickly, very fast. So the more that we can do to take a lesson that we've learned over the years and help make that available to everyone else, the more that we can kind of transition through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen this coming for quite some time, but I think this is it's like the reckoning, you know, the future is digital, right? So I think it's time for people to, who are not already kind of on the bandwagon, to start looking towards, yeah, how, if possible, of course, some industries will always stay physical, but many of us, I think it's certainly time to start looking towards how to orient yourself to something that can be done remotely or online. Oh, cool. Lily just dropped me. So if anyone is on the live stream right now, go to, if you want more about the Draper Startup House, it's like DEN draperstartuphouse.com. But I'll put that in the description. You know, okay, so all right, we've kind of, you know, yeah, I a couple just quick off the cuff recommendations I want to give for any of my followers that have been, you know, kind of watching the Nomad thing from the outside, but maybe haven't fully jumped in yet. Yeah, I mean, like I say, this is your wake up call, you know, like there's nothing wrong with going to a job, and some people are fortunate, like yourself, Adam, and I think there's lots of opportunities there. Like you could be part of a team, you as well, Lily. You know, like that's remote, but I think, yeah, a lot of people are finding that, you know, maybe they're being told they're expendable. I don't think anyone is expendable, but you know, in the workforce, like we're gonna find out if you're relying on a paycheck, sometimes that's going to put you in a risky situation. And so I think there's never been a better time to at least kind of start putting in the work and studying entrepreneurship, or yeah, how can you take whatever it is you do and maybe turn it into a freelancing situation, or see if you can, if you're not already remote, you know, like work out a long-term remote work agreement with your employer if you're lucky enough to still have one. But yeah, a few resources that I would point people to right now who are kind of more new in that world. Draper stuff looks fantastic. But I think, you know, there's, let me see if I do have it. This one is one of my go-to books that I always recommend in the Foundry, but Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. You know, this is like, everyone has something that they're very knowledgeable at or an expert in. You might not know what that is, but you know, like everybody has experience. Everybody has an education in something, like whether it's formal or not. But you know, maybe there's an opportunity for you to just learn how to kind of position yourself as a leader in whatever expertise you have. This is the time, like I said earlier, like get out there and show yourself, you know, lead by example. Maybe start building a little bit of an online reputation if you don't already have that yet. But yeah, like that's a fantastic book, I think, for people that want to go in that direction and either be, you know, get into some kind of consulting or coaching possibly, or just be a business owner one day, you know, like how to develop some of the leadership mindset to put yourself out there in front of the world. So I highly recommend Expert Secrets. And, you know, and I also think like the last year, I've really been recommending Russell's stuff. Like I'm not like a fanboy, but they have some of the best training I've seen for people generally who are interested in online business, but still in the early stages. And I also would recommend looking at their, what's it called? Their One Funnel Away challenge. No affiliate links. I'm just recommending it because it is some of the best, like, overall training I've seen in the 15 years that I've been doing what I do online. And yeah, I mean, I think it's time to rather, you know, it's fine to watch a movie here and there. I've been doing that with my son. But I think, you know, don't just drown yourself in Netflix, but yeah, it's time to read, you know, study, and invest in yourself in some way. Like, what is the thing that you've been wanting to do for a really long time, but you've been putting off? Like, what is the skill that you're interested in that you could be taking an online class right now? You know, there's, I mean, I think, Adam, you've brought up several times, like there's so many school, you know, colleges and universities that put a lot of their course material online for free. And so maybe now is the time to just identify whatever that skill or interest area is for you and double down on it. If you got nothing better to do. But anyhow, let's move on to health. Did you have something to add there, Adam?
No, that's okay. You can move on to the next one.
So yeah, I mean, I also wanted to touch on, well, health and mindset, but I think health, you know, like we kind of were starting to dabble there with you, Dwight. What are some things, you know, I'm not a health trainer or expert by any means myself, but you know, over the last several years, I've always found that like when I prioritize fitness and like healthy eating, I mean, number one, if you are worried about a sickness, a disease, a virus going around, like the more healthy you are, the better care you take of, the better you take care of yourself. You know, you're gonna boost your chances, you know, boost your immune system and raise the chances of you avoiding getting this disease or beating it. So I mean, there's different elements there, but you're someone who is, Dwight, you're someone who is at the heart of food and I mean, gardening, like I'd kind of mentioned several times in the last couple of weeks, but I think that's for those that can do it, it's certainly a good investment of your time to at least begin learning that skill. But what thoughts do you have on like the sustainability, the kind of skills people might want to start building now with relationship to food and like maintaining a healthy lifestyle? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we realized all that stuff is more interconnected than we thought, or had time to, you know, give, you know, energy to. But yeah, you know, in terms of, you know, you talk about Netflix. I mean, I think that's, you know, not drowning yourself in Netflix. We also shouldn't be drowning ourselves in like instant noodles as well. You know, just having fresh herbs and stuff on hand, and using the food that you have like medicine. You know, taking what you can. You know, making like simple teas even without actual tea in them. You know, I don't know if any of you have parents like mine, but just, you know, my mom will like do honey and lemon and stuff like that, you know, like random stuff, you know. I think all of this sort of things that we might know vary on might only know tradition wise. We haven't sat down and written these recipes. Not a lot of us, or not a lot of us have paid attention to what are the health benefits of things that might be like fairly common in our lives that we don't normally pay attention to. That now, you know, you see all these articles about that are boosting your immunity or boosting your, you know, revitalizing your immune system. And some of it is stuff that we know we should be doing, like exercising, of course, but some of it is stuff like, you know, eating chili and garlic and you know, stuff like that just, you know, it's just stuff that we have to kind of pay more attention to now, and take better care of ourselves. And I think that is kind of that's gonna be a outlet that is important when you know, you can't just run out to the gym, or you know, you don't have a punching bag in the house, so you know, instead you're angry at people online and don't really know why, you know. So that, as well as, you know, taking care of your mental health as well, and you know, part of that is having some sort of outlet, you know, in this sort of situation. So, and you know, having somebody to talk to, I think, whether that's somebody in your house or outside of your house, it's probably good to have both, you know, to, you know, keep stuff in perspective, and keep you kind of grounded and sober about, you know, probably, you know, everybody's making hard decisions right now about their business and family and all of that. So, you know, and there are a lot of free resources for everything. I almost kind of got overwhelmed with how many things became, you know, either free trial for 30 days, or go check this out. And there were so many things, especially for nonprofits, that I had to kind of create a Trello board because I kind of got lost in all of that stuff. So I've seen a lot of things for mental health. I've seen people putting on their, yoga classes and stuff like that online. And then, of course, we have resources like YouTube where you can just go and find some of that, just tap into some of that stuff online for free. Yeah. So yeah.
For people who are in a position to, like myself, one thing I've been trying to do more of is to watch gardening videos on YouTube rather than, fear-mongering videos. And I find them really relaxing. And then, of course, like I said, I've been working. I mean, I've destroyed all my fingers this week, like tilling the soil and preparing the garden. What's that?
Who are you? Is this Cody?
New and improved. But I mean, so what about, for folks that might have the space, are there, two-part question, are there any resources you would point people to for learning about gardening? And I know you've done even urban gardening, like on the pavement in the middle of the suburbs in Bangkok. And then second, cooking, like people who, might be kind of isolated at home and having to learn to do more cooking. Do you guys offer stuff online, and what would you point people to, either through Courageous Kitchen or other good resources that you like?
I think there's so much out there. I would encourage people to look for local stuff, especially if you do have chefs nearby you in your community that are putting their content out there. Maybe they're also talking about the products that they offer and things like that. We should definitely be, supporting restaurants and farmers, and especially if they have the ability to put the content out there. Like we have some restaurants that are doing their own CSA boxes, and they're putting recipes in there and kind of telling you how to use the ingredients and things like that. So I think that's always the first choice. Of course, like I said, YouTube has so much stuff. There's stuff for like very basic things, like taking some herbs that you bought from the store or a market or wherever, and just throwing them in some water and regrowing them, or taking things like spring onion and not leaving a little bit of green on the bottom of it, and putting that down in water and letting the roots grow, and then putting it in the dirt later and stuff like some very basic stuff that you can do with with not a lot of space or a lot of sunlight. I think is going to be important to people that are in more confined places, or don't have a ton of soil and stuff on hand. And then everything from that to all the way to the more advanced stuff. And so, I kind of feel like there's so much out there that maybe finding some of these online groups to kind of ask about what's good for you nearby you, because like everybody's in a different climate or interested in eating different things. But just to explore, and then if you find great stuff, to get out there and share it. Like I saw a guy in one of the Bangkok healthy eating groups who had built a sort of shelf, that sits on your balcony, and he provides the shelf, and he provides the dirt and some like starter seeds and plants for you. So for somebody, for like a lot of people in Bangkok who live in condos, I live in a house now, but for the most of my life here, I lived in an apartment building in condos, and you don't have a lot of space. And so being able to put something like that out on the balcony, I think is great. Even if it's just a hobby, even if it's just something that is visually appealing, that gets your mind off of looking at the phone or the TV or thinking about problems. I think it's great on that level, but even better if it's something that you can eat as well.
Yeah. Well, even just, speaking of mental health, I mean, as I've said, it's like just spending some time in the garden. Even, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I've learned a lot from you and your staff when I was with you in Bangkok, but it's still pretty new to me. And so, like, I'm very aware, the likelihood of success is questionable, but just the process of doing it is therapeutic. And like you say, like even if you just do some basic, pot some flowers or something for your balcony, I think everyone needs a project. That's my belief, And so, yeah, if you're just kind of like stuck at home and don't know what to do with yourself right now, and all you have, like you've watched all the Netflix shows, and all there is the fear porn on Facebook and the news, like, just find, I mean, gardening or planting stuff might not be your thing, but find something, to have a project, learn something new and try to create some beauty in your surroundings if you can. That's what I would recommend. What about to all of you guys? I mean, yeah, what are you doing right now? Most of us probably can't get up to the gym. Like the gyms are closed around here. I'm fortunate to have a bit of basic equipment at home, but like, yeah, any fitness related practices that are kind of keeping you sane, or just generally, health related things that you've learned along your path that you think are important to implement right now?
Yeah, well, I was going to take more the medical route of this direction of this conversation.
Yeah.
I was a volunteer EMT for a while, so went through all the licensing training for that. I worked on an ambulance for a while. So one thing that just really came to mind is the importance of self-care through a time like this. Any digital nomad has heard on a flight has heard that you always put on the air mask for the person next to you before yourself, and that same thing applies to any of this sort of thing. We need to take the time through something like this to make sure our immune system is up, that we're out taking care of ourselves. We kind of all have a personal obligation to make sure that we don't get sick, so that way we don't get anyone else sick. That's the only way we can really be able to stem something along these lines. And then also, just as far as with the EMS stuff goes, make sure you keep a copy of your medications with you, that you know what it is that you have. If you do ever have sleep treatment, emergency numbers as well. Anything that you can do to help try and make sure that they can treat you properly, and that you can take the little bit easier on them as well.
Yeah, great points. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I think I want to chime in on the note about like mental health, and like I found my anxiety coming back in a way that it hasn't since like 2015, during like a low time in my life where I was like burnt out and like really depressed, like living in New York. And the thing that like from that low point, like I really learned how much exercise has an impact on like my, like not just my physical, but my mental well-being. And being sick just like completely knocked me off of my usual fitness routine. And I run a pole dance studio, and I usually teach classes twice a week. And that usually gives me like my baseline exercise that I like need to stay like, happy and healthy and like of sound mind. And our studio has been closed for weeks now. And I was like really suffering with that. And I was just like, I was being a bit lazy once I was on the mend, and just like not necessarily like focusing on the exercise portion. But now that I've been more disciplined about that, I'm seeing like such huge effects. And it's just a reminder, because I have had good habits, and so I don't notice how quickly it can creep back. And now that I'm getting back, I'm just like, this is so important. Like, I need to do this, because if I want to like function, if I want to be productive, my body has to be in the right place to provide the foundation for that. And yeah, I think it's hard right now. And I'm used to like, I know how to like do yoga at home. I've got like a little like routine, sort of like a HIIT type thing where I do with like a jump rope and just like body weight exercises. And so I know this. So it's like it feels fairly easy to just like jump into that. But I think for a lot of people, like, we're not used to that. Like, they're going to have to find a substitute. But yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of people putting out content for free right now. I have a friend of mine who's a Zumba instructor. And so she's been doing those like on Zoom and getting a lot of like fun interactivity in her classes as well. It's, I think, a little more fun than just like putting on a video that's just like one way. So I think, people have access to both right now. But I think yeah, we don't know how long this is going to last. So I think it's very easy to just be like, oh, I'll like be good about exercise and looking after myself, like when things are normal again. But right now we don't know when normal is going to be. So like, it's important to, I think, pay attention to that now.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think, I mean, I'm hopeful that, possibly in the next couple of weeks, I don't think anything is going back to the old normal we but like I'm hopeful that in the next few weeks we can get back to some form of regular life. But yeah, like you say, I mean, the future is uncertain, but either way, it's a good time to just focus on building healthy habits, because they'll serve you whether you're stuck at home or not, and anyhow, I mean, I've found the same, like you're saying, like I've never been a super athletically oriented person, but yeah, it was only the last 2 years, like I really doubled down on morning routines and trying to get exercise every day. I got to be honest, I've been letting it, I've not been maintaining it super well the last couple of months, but yeah, it's something that, as you say, I know that when I do it, for me, typically in the morning, it's like it makes the brain fog go away. It puts you in a good mood. It makes me much more positive than when I don't do it. And then like I'm able to focus on work or just be a better dad or just maintain more joy and energy in my life. So yeah, like anyone who's experiencing any whatever, especially kind of negative emotions, yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Like just look up body weight exercises if you don't have any equipment at home. And I mean, do the stuff they taught us in school. I mean, if nothing else, it sounds so like overly simple, but it will do wonders if you just do like jumping jacks and squats and push-ups, or something. Do whatever works for you. Yoga. I think meditation is a fantastic thing to practice as well. Actually, I've heard recently with this virus in particular, because they say it attacks the lungs, people who have like a stronger diaphragm are gonna be more resistant to it or be able to kind of overcome it better. And I've heard that the Wim Hof breathing method, if I'm sure you guys have heard of that, but like look up Wim Hof, WIMHOF, Wim Hof breathing method, and yeah, just like deep breathing and meditation. These are always staples if you ask me. Any other thoughts still, yeah, for health and wellness from any of you guys?
I would just because on the tell here about not knowing how things are going to last. I think it's important for people, just as leaders in your community and in your household, just to be thinking long term and almost worst case scenario. Better to be planning for that and still being hopeful that things change. Because I know, like, especially Southeast Asia, a lot of the things that we're seeing implemented are all kind of short-term policies. So at least, in your head or in your household, if you're thinking long-term about this stuff, that kind of reduces some of that ambiguity and anxiety. And and just start, and that gives you like a perspective that you can, think about other things like, like, oh, I know I'm not exposed to the virus right now. I'm not going anywhere, but if I do go out, like what am I doing? What is my responsibility to the community? We went and passed out masks to refugees that were kind of stuck in their homes, stuck in the community that they live in, but they just wanted like masks to be able to go to the market and things like that. And just having the the vision to think like, oh, okay, I don't want to, if anything, I'm the one that would bring the virus around, the healthy person that, is, has friends from, all sorts of places. So, just being careful and then just personally trying to track symptoms like, okay, if I'm coughing today, just because I would have that responsibility to then go back to all of those people and let them know, like, hey, I caught this. There's a chance that I may have exposed it to you. You know, even if I was there with my mask on or whatever, just to let people. I think it's your responsibility to kind of let people know. Just to be able to do that, I think is something that we have to be thinking about.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Good points. I mean, you know, speaking of some of the mental health issues and meditation and just how to think about this, you know, as you're saying, kind of remind yourself that this hopefully is not I mean, it's certainly not a forever scenario, but yeah, so let's get into mindset. I think, like we've said, so many things that are directly applicable to that realm of mindset and your beliefs and your outlook, the perspective on life and the world around you in this situation. But just to really narrow in on that area, if any of you guys have thoughts, what do you think are some things people can do to, I mean, I call it like armor up in a sense, because like, yeah, there's a real situation happening around us, but I know the power of your thoughts, your beliefs. One thing I've been trying to shout from the rooftops on a couple of my broadcasts recently is, if you don't know about it, I really encourage people to look up and research the placebo effect. And it's been written about extensively, like, you know, like, yeah, health issues are real. Yes, you know, diseases are real, and you know, we all have experienced them and will experience them. But like, if you believe that you will get better, that you will get healthier, then your likelihood of actually getting healthy is exponentially isn't the right word, but it's much increased, you know. Whereas if you're in a state of fear and uncertainty and worry and anxiety, and we all struggle with those things, but if that's what's dominating your mindset, you know, then you're actually kind of opening your immune system up to weakness. I actually had, rather than just me trying to babble on, I did find a few things from University of Minnesota had the impact of chronic fear. Fear, you know, on physical health, fear weakens our immune system and can cause cardiovascular damage, gastrointestinal problems such as ulcers and irritable bowel syndrome, and decreased fertility. It can lead to accelerated aging and even premature deaths. In the area of memory, fear can impair formation of long-term memories and cause damage to certain parts of the brain, such as the hippocampus. This can make it even more difficult to regulate fear and can leave a person anxious most of the time. To someone in chronic fear, the world looks scary, and their memories confirm that. 3, brain processing and reactivity. Fear can interrupt processes in our brains that allow us to regulate emotions, read nonverbal cues and other information presented to us, reflect before acting, and act ethically. And I think this is a big impact of why we're seeing people lashing out a lot, and you know, emotions are running high, understandably, but this impacts our thinking and decision making in negative ways, leaving us susceptible to intense emotions and impulsive reactions. All of these effects can leave us unable to act appropriately. And then 4th and final, of course, mental health. Other consequences of long-term fear include fatigue, clinical depression, and PTSD is what they meant to write, but they got it out of order. And you know, we've touched on it in some of our past streams, but I hate to say the words out loud, but I think we are going to see a lot of probably suicide. You know, certainly a lot of mental health issues from this whole, particularly the economic situation in the world. But I mean, there you go. That was all from University of Minnesota. You know, fear, anxiety, they are unavoidable, but if we just dwell in them and that's our world, then it's not good for anything. You know, like the body shuts down, the immune system shuts down, and it becomes a self-reinforcing belief system. So again, that's why at the beginning of the call I said, like, I usually start with mindset. And it's the hardest. That's why I kind of wanted to flip the conversation around. I think relationships, friends, people that you care about are, I mean, what makes life worth living, of course, and that's something we can all do, is try to find that connection and maintain those relationships as best we can right now. But the hardest person to master, I mean, you can't master anyone else, but the hardest task there is, I think, in one's life is to master oneself. And so, like, I kind of wanted to start with the stuff that's a little bit more straightforward, and then work inwards. Because, I mean, like I said, even for me, like my health, my fitness is hard for me to maintain. I don't know about you guys. Some people, that's their jam, but the mind is, you know, the hardest beast to master, but it's also the most important. I think, key to unlocking everything else, or helping maintain other things. What do you guys think about mindset and any empowering practices or exercises or tools, resources that you guys are using right now? Things that have kept you going through life, things that have changed your life for the better, things that you think people should know about and try to incorporate. Any thoughts in that area? It's a big question, I know, but
I can I think get vulnerable and volunteer a little bit. I think I've shared, being sick and like being anxious, having my usual coping mechanisms and tool sets and like productive like outlets, like just like kicked out from under me was like really destabilizing. So, the last couple of weeks have been a process of just like figuring out like ways to rehash that and to like bring that back in. And I'm so grateful for all the self-work that I've done in the time leading up to this, because if this crisis hit us when I was, at like a kind of like my like low point in my life where I was like already experiencing burnout, already stressed, like financially insecure, then like, fuck, that would be really hard. So actually, I think that's a really good one. Practicing gratitude is just one of the simplest ways of working on your mindset and being mindful. Sometimes I think it's like difficult for people who haven't opened themselves up to the practice of like mindfulness and learning how to work on their mindset. Like the language makes things inaccessible. So I think to just like be like specific with the language, practicing gratitude is just, noticing. It's really just about noticing the good things, and whether you just like say those aloud to yourself. Sometimes, like for me, I write lists. I'm shit at journaling, but writing lists is like my version of that feels productive and feels more natural for me sometimes. So I just like take stock and say, okay, what am I grateful for? Why do I feel lucky? Like, what are some of the good things that I have, or just to help me like connect with those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, baby. That's the one. Yes. Gratitude. That's actually, very hard to do if you're not like oriented that way to begin with. But oh my goodness, that was one that transformed my life, because I mean, it sounds woo woo, and maybe it is, but yeah, if you invest your energy and attention in identifying the things that you're grateful for and happy with, and like like the whole world could be burning, but you could, like, oh, well, at least I have a few people near me that I love, or at least I have a flower on my balcony, like whatever.
And it doesn't mean the world's no longer on fire, but it's just like a foundational, just like exercise to center yourself. Like find the good place as much as you can, like inhabit that space and start doing the work of getting yourself to the better place from that foundation, rather than just being like,
well, and again, that's the thing, like foundation, like that's literally building your foundation, because like don't focus, like yes, there are problems and it is important to identify them, but also like if you're just solely focused on what's wrong and that's all you obsess about, then that's what your world will become, in a sense. Your psychology dominates your perception of the world. So if your psychology is focused on just negative, then that's all you'll see, whereas like if you focus on what's going well, what you are appreciative of. You're building a foundation for yourself, and like things to be more positive about and more hopeful.
And it's like,
about.
Sorry. And it's like exercising a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And like mindfulness is like literally in the simplest words, like mindfulness is just like stopping, like trying to get rid of like external stimuli or just like tune those out and just stop to notice. Notice what you're feeling, notice what your body is doing, just be present in that like moment. You know, when you say like mindfulness, it just sounds like what the fuck is mindfulness? Like that's it. Just like stop, put your phone down, like turn everything off and just stop and sit with yourself for a moment and just see what comes up. And sometimes that's easier said than done because a lot of us are like subconsciously chasing stimuli because we're so uncomfortable sitting with ourselves. But like discomfort doesn't need to be bad. Like, and again, that is the kind of thing that gets easier over time as well. You start realizing maybe you have a lot of negative emotions as you're just like sitting there. So that's what feels uncomfortable. But if you can like push past that, like it can be really rewarding. And then the next time it gets easier and it gets easier.
Yes. Like you said, it is exercising a muscle. Like it's training your brain and you build, I mean, habit loops in everything you do, but like your perspective is a really, really important one. And as I said, like that changed my life. I think it was the 5-minute journal is what I started with to kind of practice that, like gratitude journaling, that habit on a daily basis. I don't know. I feel like it's related, but I'd also recommend if you can download it at least, the 4 Agreements, the book, The 4 Agreements, which is kind of has to do with reframing your perspective and being more grateful. But yeah, gratitude practice, meditation. Man, what's Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley, if anyone knows him, had a great meditation. I think he calls it the 6-phase meditation. You can look that up if you're new to meditation. There's a lot of free apps out there. But yeah, good points. Thank you, Lily. Awesome. To address, I mean, we're not saying like denial of reality either, because like I think it's important to do your best to train your brain to focus on the positive, but also like I've been saying, it's like this is a good situation for the world and for each of us individually because it is highlighting the cracks in the system and the things that need attention that we might have been kind of pushing out of our consciousness. And so it's like it's also good to recognize those things so that you can kind of it's like pulling the weeds out of your garden, Gardening is such a good metaphor for life. But another thing I wanted to say,
there can also be like,
well, just real quick, Lily, I mean, you kind of touched on this, but like the reality is, I think like we're all going through almost a period of mourning or grief, which is what I realize. It's like that's the stages of grief is what many people are going through. Because even for myself, it was denial at first. Like, no, whatever. People are stupid. There's nothing to worry about with this virus, But then, and then I don't recall what they are step by step, but, then it's fear, it's anger, it's kind of negotiating with reality and the people around you. And like I think that's what we're seeing on a massive scale. Everybody's going through a form of grief because we have, at least for now, we've lost what we knew before. We've lost our ability to live the way we have been living for a very long time. We've lost, maybe the ability just to keep up the habits that were keeping you joyful to begin with, whatever. It's a drastic hiccup or shaking up the system of our lives. And so we're kind of mourning, at the very least, we're mourning that. It's like, I mean, I get it, man. Like, I'm mourning the business that I just barely opened the doors of, and it's like, fuck, like, okay, I guess that's doomed to fail. Like I was getting into the travel industry and wanting to open a co-working office, and who knows if people will ever even come back here. I mean, you know, I think it'll happen again, but yeah, we don't know what we're in for, and so it's natural to experience some grief over that. And so maybe look up, yeah, the stages of grief and just understand, like be patient with yourself and with others, because we're all going through that. And I think journaling about those feelings is a good practice as well. But sorry, Dwight, you were saying in the actual morning that a lot of people are doing or will have to do long distance. Yeah, like, well, you know, for me personally, another one, I was so upset because, you know, talk about taking things personally, but my birthday was March 20th, and it's not like I'm 36. I don't need like a big birthday, you know, celebration at this point in my life. But my dad, my father, and my stepmother were scheduled to come out here. So we had like a 2-week tour and extravaganza planned with my parents. And yeah, and I was going to have a grand opening party. I wanted my dad to help me hang the banner and stuff. And it's like all of that was shot, you know. My dad had to go back home and didn't make it to the Philippines and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, you know, people are mourning in isolation, many of us. And, you know, I'm sure tons of people had plans and, you know, things that they wanted to do with people they love and care about, projects they were working on that are now kind of at least on the stalled indefinitely, you know. And yeah, we're all mourning some form of loss. Some people are mourning like real full-on loss, you know. There are people out there dying and sick, so, but it manifests in many forms. And like, yeah, try to be good to yourselves and each other. And I think it's a great time to get a lot of that down on a page if you can. But what else do you guys think in the realm of emotions and mindset and beliefs and how we can adapt in our perspective on the world right now? Any other thoughts?
I definitely helps me with that.
Both of you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Dwight.
I was just going to say that you know, that I think people have, people, especially in the travel community, you know, even if there's not great resources on it, that, you know, at least these are ideas that we've thought about before. You know, what happens if you're, you know, traveling abroad and something happens with your family or something like that, you know. And now that sort of long distance relationship that we have with sickness and death, I think is going to be like very real for people. I think I saw something like drive-through funerals and stuff like that, you know, which is just kind of, you know, crazy to think about. But there is a, like, if you think about a lot of, I think about my family and a lot of the traditions and rituals that we've kind of built up, you know, because I always have that a bit of culture shock going back home, especially when we have to go to a funeral. But the idea of like things like a wake where you like go and like look at the body, you know, somebody, and that's supposed to, you know, part of that process is to help you, you know, come to terms with passing. I think there's going to be a lot of things like that where people aren't going to have some, especially something physical and tangible way to deal with that sort of grief that they're experiencing. You know, both, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's somebody that passed away from, you know, from this virus or for something else, you know, for the foreseeable
Right.
future. You're not immediate family. You know, it's just figure out how to
Yeah, one of, you know, it's maybe it is a little strange, but I've been thinking. I just lost my grandmother last September, October, and she was in a home back in California, so we were already quite far away. But you know, like, yeah, people. There's a lot of people suffering in the world. There always have been, and you know, I feel for folks, especially aging or sick already. Maybe they're already separated from family. I mean, yeah, in my case, fortunately, I look back and I'm like, I'm grateful that she passed when she did, you know, and she didn't have to experience this where like maybe she would have been on lockdown and we wouldn't have ever, no family members would have been able to visit, and just the amount of fear and anxiety going through the air. But I feel for people who are in that situation, and like you say, Dwight, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people who are in a real difficult spot, and they're now isolated. People who will, you know, pass on, and like you say, we won't be able to like honor that experience the same way we're used to. I mean, here in the Philippines, like funerals are a big deal, man. They go for 9 days, and you know they're big on their fiestas and their parties and gatherings, and so like people are having a hard time following the rules. But also, I mean, yeah, so we gotta just be mindful. Like everyone's gonna be going through hard times in different ways, and we've got to be, yeah, as supportive, I guess, and understanding and patient with others, and find new ways to try to celebrate old rituals, I guess, like you brought up there, Dwight. Adam, you raised your hand at the same time. Did you have
Yeah,
something?
well, actually kind of along the line of ritual, but in a kind of different sense. So that's something that I've always kind of used throughout travels, to just kind of keep myself grounded. If you're in somewhere new every single day, or in this case, different circumstances, I've kind of always just tried to stick to a few like basic routines, whether it's just having the same thing when I get up in the morning, the same thing that I do, or the shutdown routine at night, something like that, that even if you're not going to work anymore, or you're home and you're just stuck with depression and anxiety or whatever it is because of the world's kind of collapsing down, just having some core basic routine that we can do day to day. It doesn't matter what it is, but just be able to kind of stick to that can sometimes help return some semblance of normality, even though we have things going on. So no, personally, when I go to bed, before I go to bed at night, I always try and write down a few things I plan to do the next day, even if it only is just one really, really simple thing. And it helps kind of just take the decision process out of the next morning when I wake up. I'm not now trying to decide what I want to do and could waste the whole day in bed or Netflix before I make my decision. Doing the day before, it kind of helps to alleviate that and kind of helps me get on the right track. But again, you don't have to set the bar high here. Just having that kind of that routine, that consistency can help to alleviate some of that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, morning routines, evening routines. Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything we've been working on in our work on the inside of the Foundry and in our masterminds and challenges. But like, never has there been a time where it's more important, I think, right? Like, we've all seen it, I'm sure. But yeah, if you just wake up and you drift along the river of everything that's happening around you, and you have no direction, no purpose, no priorities for your day, for your week, etc., then like you tend to find yourself in the midst of chaos and anxiety, and it gets worse from there. So yeah, we're all being tested to our wits limit at this point, but there's a lot of tools. Yeah, and I think I've said it, I'm sure, a couple times already, but it's like, yeah, you need to. The one thing is, I think that this will help highlight for many people who have maybe not been super conscious of it yet, but I think this situation will help highlight what truly matters to you. I can't tell you what that is. Like, no one can tell you, but like the things that are constantly on your mind now, the people you're concerned about, and the thing, like, you know, what if I die in a week or a month? Like, if this thing comes and gets me, like, what do I want to leave behind? Like, that's kind of where my head is at sometimes, you know, and probably a lot of people, but like, that's a good thing, you know. Think about that. What do you want to leave behind? Or what can you, if you had a month to live, what would you spend your time doing? You know, like, this is real life now. I mean, I think we'll all get through this, but it's important to ask these questions, right?
Yeah, I think to throw something out there, one of those deep questions that I think is hyper relevant for the digital nomad community, because, you know, I will fight you if you disagree with this, but I think every single person who pursues this lifestyle is either running away from something or chasing something. They're in search of something, because you don't just cut your roots and depart and put yourself in like drastically different situations just for nothing. There's an excitement to this lifestyle, but it's also, there's risk. And so there's something on the inside that's driving that. And I've had conversations with friends who are like struggling with being grounded, because one of the ways they've sort of managed issues on the inside has just been by, putting themselves in a new space, distracting themselves with stimuli. They're too busy, they're too on the go. They're just like amped up and sit and be quiet enough to notice those things. And so right now that's happening. So I think a recurring theme has been, this crisis is shining a light on certain things, and that doesn't have to be bad. Noticing can be part of fixing things, right? Tending to the part of the garden that you can touch. And so I think for digital nomads right now, rather than having that be a source of like anxiety or distress, just feel that, spend some time with those thoughts and those emotions and figuring out where they're coming from. Because, if you can come out of quarantine isolation with just like greater insight into what motivates and drives you and greater clarity on like what you want from your life, then you'll be in such a better position to like hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've done a lot of thinking about that idea of running away from or running towards something in the last, several years. But I can admit, I think at the beginning of my digital nomad journeys, it wasn't conscious of it at the start, but I was probably more like being pushed away from or running from certain things that I didn't like about my old life than running towards something, right? Now it's different, because I became more conscious of that and looked at it and wrestled with it, and figured myself out and figured out what matters to me. And yeah, like you guys have been saying, it's like, I am thankful I've done a lot of that work already. But yeah, it's like everyone is gonna, I think it's beneficial to anyone who hasn't, like, this is the time. Yeah, you gotta figure out who you are, what you stand for, and like, if you don't have a target, like Jordan Peterson calls it a guiding star, like watch Pinocchio, and like the idea of like a star to wish upon, like what, it's silly, it's kind of childish, but like that's an archetype for a reason. What's your target? What is the dream or the idea, the pursuit that drives you? And the more clear you can get on that, the more you will power through hard times like this. And yeah, it's important to just like carve away the unessential stuff, and that's what, like, we're being forced to do that now. So it's in the big grand scheme of things, I think it's a positive transformation. But I do feel like, I've been saying, like, I feel like the whole world is being, like, somehow maybe we subconsciously or spiritually all agreed, like, okay, we're going on a hero's journey as the whole world together. And now is the time. We're all going to go through the belly of the whale and, descend into chaos and have to figure out what the hell really matters to us. And hopefully I think we will come out better. But again, like, that's why I've been saying the last couple of weeks, and I mean it, but in the weeks ahead, I'm going to be focusing more inside our community, for those of you guys in the HERO Foundry, on sharing like the actual stages of what is this hero's journey, this framework, this blueprint. I think it's it applies in many realms, but like psychologically speaking right now, like, this is a really powerful tool to, each of you will have your own way of coping with the situation, and you have your own priorities and your own thing that matters to you. But if you find yourself in a place where like you're just lost in the chaos, or you're unclear on who you are and what matters to you, like the hero's journey is certainly a tool that can kind of give you the outline, the framework to identify like the forces of good and evil, but really the challenges, the obstacles, the habits and beliefs that are holding you back versus the talents, the gifts you have, the powerful beliefs and skills that you possess. And so I think it's more important now than ever to double down on that kind of work. I'm going to be sharing a lot more from another one of my favorite books, Joseph Campbell, who's the guy who wrote the Bible on the hero's journey, Hero with a Thousand Faces, and many other works. But yeah, I want to take you guys through, you know, each stage of that framework in the coming weeks, and do a lot more live casting. And I think another thing that comes to mind, yeah, for those that are interested in like doing the inner work and delving into their own beliefs, perspective, mindset, all of that. I mean, there's many tools and resources I could recommend. Joseph Campbell is certainly one of them. If you want to join us, we'll be going through the stages of the hero's journey in the coming weeks at the HERO Foundry. I would recommend looking up, like if this stuff interests you, you know, look up psychology classes online. I know not everyone does, but I really like a lot of Jordan Peterson's work. I think he's got his Maps of Meaning course, which he originally taught at the University of Toronto, but it's all available online. It's fantastic. He's got something called the self-authoring suite, I believe, that you can, it's like a journaling, a big series of journaling exercises that kind of takes you through your life journey, and you can unpack, you know, past traumas and the things that shaped you. And like this is the time to really delve into, I guess, our collective shadow, if you know Jungian stuff at all, but yeah, to identify the weak points in your life and the things that have held you back, and the wiring inside you that you know maybe needs to be reworked, and figure out a way to rewrite your story or retell your story so that, you know, it's empowering and it will help push you forward. I think I had a quote in here somewhere in my notes. Oh, Friedrich Nietzsche, you know, he said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And, you know, wherever you are in the world, I think right now, many of us are going to have very difficult hows, like just getting out of bed in the morning, just doing the basic things of life. It's more difficult than it was a few weeks ago, right? And then factor in like our personal journeys through life and our own struggles and setbacks and loss and trauma, all of that. But yeah, if you have like a driving purpose behind it all, like if you know your why, then you can bear, you know, whatever you need to do to strive for that guiding star, I suppose, if you follow me. Yeah, you know, I don't know if this is on Netflix. I have the DVD, but one thing I would definitely recommend, like for anybody. My kid loves it, my 6-year-old. There's a movie called Finding Joe. It's like a documentary, but it's I don't know, it's really well done. And it talks about what this hero's journey monomyth is, and about Joseph Campbell. Maybe if you guys can find that on Hulu or Amazon or Netflix, Finding Joe, that's a great one. But yeah, I'm hoping to really drill down into the psychological stages of that blueprint with you guys inside the Foundry in the coming weeks. And I think it's time to put on at least a 30-day challenge where maybe we'll focus on building up our businesses. So yeah, give me anyone watching, you know, leave your comments, give your feedback, but let us know if you want to be part of that, or specifically what area of the 4 pillars, mindset, health, wealth, relationships, what area you're struggling with, or what area you really want to double down on, and you know, if you want to be part of a challenge group and hold each other accountable working on these things, then I'm hoping to facilitate something along those lines in this month inside. But what do you guys think about this situation? Yeah, as a step in our evolution, I guess, or in our shared collective journey, you know, because the world's got to change, right? And we will go through hard times doing it. But any other thoughts on what you're doing, maybe to stay positive about it, or to kind of reframe your psychology?
Yeah, I think my, sort of touching on the whole stage is a grief thing. I think I've sort of like gone on a journey with this, and yeah, been in a low point and like worked on like building myself up. And yeah, I think if there's a takeaway that I would like want to share with people, it's to like that's totally normal to like be having a hard time and to need to focus on self-care and to be struggling. I think a lot of people are, and yeah, you're that's going to be part of getting to the better place.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to go through the shit before you can rise up again. Dwight, he said you got to go. Thanks for joining us, man. I guess, yeah, and Adam, I know it's very late for you there. Thank you guys all very, very much for bringing your different perspectives. I really appreciate it. That's like, yeah, I hope to keep doing this on a weekly basis. So if you guys want to continue to join me, I'd love it. Lily, it's really a pleasure and an honor. Thank you very much for joining us. It's like really fun hearing about the things you're working on, and yeah, the perspective you bring. One other quick thought that I forgot earlier, but you know, another resource. One of my mentors, one of my coaches, Garrett J. White from Warrior. I don't think I have that stuff here. Warrior, Wake Up Warrior. I've mentioned this before, but there's a tool called the Stack, which is basically another journaling tool, and it's something I've learned and implemented and used quite a lot. And particularly with regard to relationships and what do you call it? Thanks guys if you're hopping off. Thanks Adam and Dwight. Oops. Particularly with regards to relationships and like conflict with others. The Warrior Stack is one of the things I've recommended to people many times, but it's like the full-on training on it, and the stages has always been behind a paywall with Warrior. And just this morning, like I was wanting to bring this up on this call, but kind of feeling like I don't want to give away, my coach Garrett's, it's a tool he developed with many influences, but just this morning on Facebook, I think I saw he's going to be releasing it to the world for free this week. So trying to think look for wakeupwarrior.com if that interests you. But man, like this is like a daily practice. It's a great journaling exercise, a tool that kind of can help you process through when you're feeling whatever intense emotions, and particularly if you're having conflict with a partner or someone in your life, or just like facing a situation that really makes you like want to explode or something for one reason or another, or just has you unhappy. It's an invaluable tool to reframe your perspective and weigh the different possibilities, as far as how to take action on that situation and just work through conflict and negative emotions, and hopefully come out with a much better plan of action. So whenever he does release it, I'm sure I'll be sharing that with you guys inside the Foundry. But if that interests you, yeah, just go look up Garrett J. White Warrior Brotherhood or Wake Up Warrior. the stack. He'll be releasing that this week, so that's exciting news. I'll definitely be sharing that in the Foundry. If you guys, most of the folks tuning in are probably already in our community, but if you are not and you are interested to join me in the coming weeks to explore the hero's journey, the stages of this kind of psychological process we go through, which relates to the stages of grief and mourning. It relates to like how to delve into, do the shadow work, as many call it, from a Jungian perspective, and I get, kind of transmute that shit in the deep dark abyss. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and figure out who you truly are, what matters to you, and what drives you, and like get clear on your purpose in life, your mission here, and getting clarity on that why, so that you can. That's what we're going to be delving into real deep in the coming weeks. I've taken Adam and Dwight and Rico, several other of our members through this process, like kind of more one-on-one, well, in small group settings usually over 90 days. But I've been saying for months, really, for probably over a year, that I'm ready to package this into kind of a course. And so I'm going to be releasing, week by week, a series of a masterclass series, I suppose, on the hero's journey, and how you can utilize it as a psychological tool in your life, how you can utilize it, to rewrite your own story mindset wise for yourself, and craft a more powerful, driving story, narrative, personal narrative for yourself, but then also as it relates to business and to how you share your story with others. So yeah, if you have a business, if you are trying to develop your marketing, and have a compelling story to bring people into whatever it is you're doing, or if you are at the beginning stages and you're interested in this, talking about leadership and putting yourself out there in the world as a coach or a consultant or an expert in whatever field, but you're oblivious to how to tell your narrative. This is a great tool for business as well, for marketing, for storytelling, promoting your cause in the world. That's what we are working on inside the Foundry. So if any of you guys are not already members, I actually have a crazy, ridiculous offer, actually. But right now, if you go to what is it, herofoundry.org/join, for anyone who's not already on the inside. Right now, I've got the most ridiculous offer there. I don't want to be salesy, but I've not been letting people in for several months, and typically most of my clients these days, it's been at least a $500 commitment to be part of this, the inner network. But I think that this stuff is so important right now, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that are isolated, and it's more important than ever to have a strong community, even if it is virtually or remote. So if these ideas we've been talking about resonate with you, and if you are dedicated to the warrior path or the hero's journey, it's a difficult journey, but this work is the best work you could do. You'll come out stronger, better, more with more faith in yourself or something bigger, more understanding of what you're here to do and who you can serve, and learning these things over the last several years has just totally changed my life, and it's my duty to share it as much as I can. So, I mean, there will continue to be lots of live casts and free material on YouTube. But if you would like to be part of my community and have direct access to me and like get involved in some of the masterminds and the challenges and the training that I'm doing at the inner core with some of my students and friends like Adam and Dwight and others, yeah, check it out. Now is the time. I meant to, well, I wanted to do something special for my birthday back a couple weeks ago, and then they suspended my Facebook and had all this quarantine stuff kind of drop into my lap. And so my focus the last couple of weeks has been doing what I need to do to make sure that my family and my household are kind of we're well stocked and prepared. But in the weeks and months going forward, this is all I'm going to do. Get here on live chats with you guys and try to share helpful, positive, empowering tools, and yeah, invite you guys to be part of it. So thank you all for tuning in and watching. Dude, thanks to all of you friends who joined me, Lily, Zach, Dwight, Adam, and bring in your perspectives. And hopefully we'll do this again, probably same time next week for a live public broadcast again. So thanks to all of you who will tune in and watch this on YouTube as well. Yeah, find me at herofoundry.org. That's the best place. I'm getting off Facebook soon because I don't know, they keep suspending my profile and our page, so I don't know what it is that's so something. I guess I'm violating the terms and conditions by sharing, you know, good, useful tools for people's mental and health and relational well-being and how to build up your own business. But yeah, stay tuned at Hero Foundry. You can find us for now on Facebook. Look up the Hero Project group. And please give me your feedback. You know, leave your comments and let us know what you think. Let us know what your concerns are right now. And I would love to get more engagement from the audience, and we can answer your questions live on these calls. But definitely look forward to a lot more of these live casts. I want to start doing this more than weekly, but I don't want to make promises yet. But I look forward to seeing more of my face here on YouTube or in Facebook temporarily, if that's where you find me. But definitely, if this stuff resonates with you, then look at joining us inside the HERO Foundry Accelerator community. That's where I really keep in tight communication with my inner circle and share everything I'm working on. But yeah, leave your comments, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. And wherever you are in the world, I really, really wish all the best for you. And check out some of these resources and tools. As soon as this is packaged up, I'll add some links to the description so you can look for those. Stay positive, you know, be a good neighbor as best you can. Have patience with one another. It's crazy times, but we're all on this journey together. And yeah, if you are in a position to, then I think that this is the time to step up and lead by example, you know, and serve. So I hope you guys will join me in that endeavor, and I appreciate your attention and your time. Thank you guys. Take care. God bless.